Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back. So I'm doing some springtime stalk stomping. Wasn't really my intentions to do as much as I have so far. I came up here to actually clean up the waterways. Tried to do it last fall, but we got late enough and then we had winter show up that I didn't get a chance to come up and clean up the waterways, and I'm not sure if I would have bothered cutting all the stalks last fall or not. If it would have been put into my regular rotation, like what I would have typically do, I would have came up, cleaned up the waterways, and then we would have chiseled this last fall. We got about 160, 180, 160 acres that typically we would have went through and finished chisel plowing in the spring. Lack of moisture is a concern. They're calling for a week of snow and rain and cold. A little concerned about that. I mean, I want the moisture put back into the ground, but they're calling for all this cold weather right when my calving window starts or opens up. I got 4 cows in particular that I've been watching pretty close because they don't look like they're very far off and they could drop calves. But when you get big weather changes like that, where you're going from blue sky, and it's kind of cold today, I think it was in the high 30s, low 40s, which compared to weather we've had recently is kind of chilly, because we were getting up in the mid to high 50s. Hopefully it isn't a concern, but honestly, looking at the forecast, if the cows wanted to wait till closer to the 1st of April, I'd be okay with that. Still kind of anxious to see where we end up on calves. I mean, 100% efficiency would be great as far as everybody, the bulls doing a perfect job last summer, but I don't expect that. As far as everything up here, if we would have had it chiseled last fall, we would have went through the spring, hit it with the disc, then hit it with that first chain harrow, and then planted it. I'm only cutting the stalks on about 1/4 of the farm. The rest of the farm, I'm going to leave the stalks standing. And as of right now, well, we're looking at more min-till, working as little soil as we really have to going forward. Everything that was chiseled last fall will get hit with the disc and then harrowed, smoothed it out, and then planting it. The big thing when doing that is just making sure that I am planting into moisture, which was an issue that I had last year. I had poor germination because I wasn't getting the seed down into that moisture level. So, you live and learn, I guess. We'll hopefully be done with the rhino cutter. I can go through, get it cleaned back off because it's completely covered in corn residue, and grease it up, and we should be done with this until the summer. We've got some pastures that we'll have to kind of buzz off. Cattle don't really like that tall mature grass. If you get too much of it, if much of any brush comes up, then it's a problem. Up here, this is a farm that I generally do. Doesn't matter if it's corn or beans. I come through and I like to clean out all the waterways because I got a bunch of trees, shrubs, brush, a little bit of everything. That when it's just in one growing season, they actually come in pretty strong, to the point where if I don't go through and knock them out, if I let them go 2 or 3 years, they're going to become a bit of an issue. To the issue where, you know, you can plug up a corn roll, a row unit on the corn head, or if it's, you know, getting a thick enough stalk on it, root system, whatever else, running that through the bean head, through those blades, you're gonna break a knife, and it just isn't worth it. And a lot of doing this is more for my curb appeal too, because it doesn't really look too good on me driving by in July, August, and there's a bunch of trees coming up in between all the strips. I'm planning on going through and doing a lot of our waterways this summer. I wish I would have done more of them last year in retrospect, but definitely had one of those years where I have the most hay grass acres out of the 3 of us, between Dad, Ryan, and I. And out of the 3 of us, I produce the least amount of feed, like decent feed. And Dad and Ryan actually made quite a bit of good material. And we started feeding my dad's cattle at the end of July, and they're still sitting good on hay that, as far as making it till spring, isn't too much of a concern. Even for me, I was looking in pretty tough shape last fall, and mild winter helped tremendously. Haven't really been listening to the weather forecasts or listening to them talk about the weather much, but I did hear this is like the mildest winter for this area in pretty much everybody's memory. I mean, we only had a week of winter, and they are calling for up to, I heard several inches of snow here in the next couple days. Granted, it's the end of March, so we get much of any snow, it isn't going to hang around. Not when our daily highs are still projected to get up in, you know, the 30s and 40s and 50s. There's a lot of grass and oats, new seeding that's been put in the ground here lately. We haven't worked any soil yet. I mean, if we didn't have that inch, we had 1 1/8 of rain here a week ago. If we didn't have that, I probably would have, even if that would have waited a few more days, I probably would have strongly considered getting the VT out and working up some stuff shallow. I'm not going very deep with it, but I got another farm that I'd like to work. Not very much, but just enough, more or less, just stir the topsoil the top inch or two and plant beans into it. Our planter's set up for how well our planter is set up now. Planting into or no-tilling, whatever, really shouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm a little shy about doing it because last year I had 100 acres that had to be replanted because after I planted it, granted it was no-till, I had actually gone through the previous fall and chopped up all the stalks that I was planting into, and we got that heavy rain on Mother's Day, and I'm not the only person. I heard there's about 1,500 acres in the area that was actually had enough crusting and emergence issues that it was worth replanting. Granted, I don't know if, I heard some people weren't going to bother replanting. When it comes right down to it, I probably could have gotten away with not replanting, and I don't know if I would have seen, I've heard up to 10 bushel loss is what guys saw last fall. I that field ran 55, which is county average, so I can't complain too much. It was dry. When I did harvest it was in November, and that was like right at 13% moisture, so moisture-wise it was good. Would have been nice if I could have harvested it 2 weeks earlier when we harvested the rest of our beans. But it got harvested and it yielded, and that's great. No tilling into corn stalks at that point in time. I think it was just bad luck. The way the planter's set up with those reveal row cleaners, the seed disc openers are the only thing I need to look at checking this year. They should be fine. We haven't ran very many seasons since I've replaced them. And then we have the 360-degree wave that takes off the sidewall and lays that sidewall soil on top of the seed, and that should really help with it getting dry out. You know, if we didn't get that rain, that should have helped at least keep the soil or the seed covered and allowed it to collect enough moisture to emerge. So I think it's all right. The rest of the farm, I'm not doing anything with the stalks. The reason I'm doing the stalks on this side of the farm in particular is because I have, well, the strip that I just got done. But I had some areas where the stalks were like 3 feet tall just from how I had to run the header when we were harvesting it, and I wanted to knock some of those taller stalks down. The rest of them were, they're only so big. It really shouldn't be an issue. I'm gonna try to plant it, planting the beans between the corn rows, so I'm not planting in the same row that corn was growing last year, and leaving the amount of residue on top of the soil if we get a week of rain. The biggest concern you have when you're chopping up corn stalks like this is it creates a mat of material that will not let the ground air out, so it stays wet. That is a minor concern. If I would have went through and ground up these stalks last fall, I'd probably have a lot more material there. But since last fall, this stuff is really broken down and it's not as heavy. But I'm still chopping up everything that's there, and it'll be interesting to see going into the summer and into the fall. I'll have a pretty good comparison of if there's much yield difference over grinding the stalks up like this or just planting right into it. I know a lot of guys can plant right into corn residue and have good results. That's where I'm trying to get to, and we've gone a long way towards that. Once again, right back to what the planter's been set up as. I'm getting to where I like to only chisel plow once every other year or every couple years. I'm actually on a 3-year rotation where I can do it, where I can no-till corn and soybean stubble, and then I'll chisel plow that year where it's going to be corn on corn. And then what I'd like to do is no-till my soybeans into my corn stalks, and then no-till my corn into the soybean stubble. So I have at least 2 years where I'm really not working the soil. Saves on fuel, saves on wear and tear on machinery and the ground. Frees up a little bit more time in general, just because with 2 chisel plows we can cover a lot of ground, and we did last year, but it was also touch and go. We only really had 4 or 5 days we could have been working ground up. But another deer chisel would sure be nice. It's on my radar, but at the same time I'm not in any position to be interested in buying any equipment. I'm more or less looking at just maintaining what we got right now and getting the cattle up and running, which last year was a enormous hurdle to get over last year, bringing in as many cattle as I did, and that they got bred last year, and if they didn't get bred last spring, hopefully they're bred for this fall, because they've certainly been in with the bulls long enough. There's no reason that I should have anything open, and if I have anything that is open to where it's not going to calve at all this year, I need to do some considering of just calling them out, because they've been in with the bulls for 7 months total. I left the bulls in longer than I wanted to this last winter, but it really shouldn't have hurt me too much. So, all right, 15 minutes. That's 16 minutes is way too long for a video. I'm just about done, and like I said, I gotta bail out of here before long anyway. It's just, once I got all the waterways cleaned up and I was here, I had enough time. I originally was just gonna come up and disc this and plant into that, but for seeing what's here, especially on the other side over the hill, I don't think there's much reason that I can't just plant into it. There's no reason we can't come up and, you know, change my mind and decide to work it up before we go to plant, but I don't really want to release any more moisture out of the soil than necessary. This farm seems to do better as soybeans anyway, but last year I had a farm that only ran 60 in the 60s, and I was trying to do more minimum tillage for my soybeans. I went through the previous year, chiseled it, and then disked it in the spring and harrowed it, and that field last year ran 72. And that's, and doing full tillage was the difference. Soybeans are complicated. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Probably gonna be slow here for a week, give or take. Gonna be watching the cattle close and doing a little bit of work in the machinery. Got oils changed and pretty much everything, so that's done for the most part. And any more cleaning up and going through and doing a spring cleaning on everything is on the list too, because the 476 is disgusting. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you later. Nightly checkup, doing a morning and night here. Just got back, and what did I tell you? I was worried about them calving here. We get closer to a weather change, so there's that. Calf's not huge, but I do know the calving ease bulls that I got were doing a lot of the work last summer. Yeah, she's not the one that I was worried it was gonna be, because I don't have my four-wheeler out where I can use it yet. Blue 61, the spicy cow from last year, is Blue 52, and I'm almost certain she's gonna prove me right that I should have sold her last year, but time will tell. I just like seeing babies on the farm, so I'm gonna do some optimizer. It's a boy, and for being as absolutely fresh as he is, I'm not gonna tag him, but I do want to give him some optimizer and probably go get him some selenium just because I can, because it's chilly out. My fingers are actually getting cold just standing here. Yeah, I'm not hurting him. So what would you guys guess him at? I'd say not even 50 pounds, which is kind of not ideal. Seems how it's March yet, and you know, worrying about him being able to stay warm here, but he's thrifty. He's looking for mom. At least he's trying.